the dark of the day, watching the tide roll away. Just sitting on the dark of the bay, wasting time. I left my
Maritime Matters is brought to you live by Bahamas Maritime Connection.
What is maritime?
Maritime, simply put, relates to navigation or commerce on the high seas.
Some say money makes the world go round. I say ships move the money that make the world move.
Who navigates those large international ships?
How often are international ships required to be surveyed and inspected?
Maritime also protects our seas and borders by way of our local Bahamas Defense
It is
Force.
very sad to say that out of 1,500 plus ships that are registered under the Bahamian flag, only a very small amount of Bahamians are employed.
Maritime Matters.
Good evening to you, our valued listening audience. Welcome one, welcome all, welcome Maritime Matters. I am your host, Captain Glenn Bain, and I say Merry Christmas to you and to yours. I also say Happy New Year, because you know, this is going to be the last show until after the New Year. So we're going to boogie on down tonight. Please feel free to get those fingers loose to make this call. We want some operations going on up in here tonight. Again, you're listening to Maritime Matters. I am your host, Captain Glenn Bain. Tonight, we are being produced by the original, the one and only, Mr. Kishno Jones. And you know Kishno don't carry on easy. Producer extraordinaire. We're coming to you live via Love 97 FM. This is Tuesday the 10th of December 2024. And if it's a Tuesday, you know the deal. It's Maritime Matters. We encourage that if you're driving and you tune in with us, please do so cautiously and ensure to take your time in getting wherever it is you are trying to get safely. As the saying goes, drive to arrive alive. Our sponsors for tonight's show are One-on-One Pharmacy and also Island Care Pharmacy. For all your medication needs, check out my good little cousin Shantia McBride and her lovely team at One-on-One Pharmacy in Nassau and of course Island Care Pharmacy in Freeport. Fill your prescription at the store or send your refills via the online site oneononepharmacy.com. That's all one word, all lowercase, oneononepharmacy.com. The three locations are East Street South, Charles Sanders Highway, and of course Explorers Way in downtown Freeport. We are secondly sponsored by Bahamas Maritime Connection Limited. At BMC, we provide a full slate of ISPS maritime security services. And I say, as always, good night, Annie Mae! My good auntie up there in Freeport, 91 years old and going strong. And Annie Mae is alive, kicking, and carrying on. That's my good auntie up there in Freeport, our number one fan for Maritime Matters. I say to you again, Annie Mae, good night, honey. You are listening to Maritime Matters, and on this show, we talk maritime. Maritime Matters airs weekly at 17:05. That's 5:05 p.m. every Tuesday here on Love 97 FM. The purpose of our show is to highlight persons that made significant contributions to maritime in the Bahamas and to sensitize Bahamians of opportunities in the maritime sector. We also cover current maritime issues from the domestic and international maritime feeds. The phone number to call us, if you want in on this discussion, is 326-8255. Feel free to call at any time. Again, that number, that's 326-8255. To hear a replay of the show or any of our previous shows, simply hit us up at any time via your YouTube page, our YouTube page, that's Maritime Matters Bahamas. Just go to YouTube on your electronic device and type into the search box Maritime Matters Bahamas, and you will see a litany of good old shows, new shows, you name it, for Maritime Matters, and you can listen to all of them at any time, any of them, to your heart's content. So let's talk maritime. Hello! Tonight we have a litany of topics to bring alive. As you may be very well aware, there is a whole lot going on in maritime. Topics we aim to engage tonight are as follows. Last month, which is November, is the hottest month ever recorded in the history of the world. So let me check back on all the records that could be found from centuries ago. There was no month of November hotter than last month. Now what's that telling us? We can expect the months to all be getting hottest, like the hottest ever. And this is all due to the increase in carbon emissions resulting from the use of fossil fuel. That's all it is. If we, the global, they got this space called the biosphere. This space where about a mile into the earth and about a mile above the earth, including the surface of the earth, is where all living things on earth dwell. If you're more than a mile below the earth, you can't live no more, because you ain't gonna be getting no oxygen or carbon dioxide, or you ain't nutrient, you ain't gonna be getting nothing under there, right? And if you're more than a mile above, ain't nothing up there either. That's why the birds only fly so high, right? Because they got some pressure up there the birds can't handle. You got some birds can handle more pressure than others. But in this biosphere, we are experiencing a blockage of carbon, and that's about, I don't know how far up above the earth, but the carbon is being trapped. Because what happens is, when the carbon comes from machinery, man-made machinery taking oxygen, and they release carbon, not carbon dioxide in particular, but carbon monoxide, carbon this, carbon that, and when that carbon goes up, it actually sits in space above the earth. It doesn't go into the abyss. It sits there, and it takes in heat. And when that carbon mixes with heat, it becomes heavy, and it sits there even more. And you know what it does eventually? It creates a blockage, whereby when more carbon is released into the environment, it cannot escape into the abyss, because those carbon that mix with heat that is sitting there, they're not letting it pass. So that's trapped on the earth. And every day when the sun rises, the sun heats up the earth. And when the sun sets, all our hotness start to come back out of the earth. And again, that heat is trapped. So as a result of all this trapped heat, because of those heavy carbon that is mixed with heat, the earth is becoming hotter and hotter. And that's why last month would have been the hottest November in history, because at this time in history, man has put so much carbon in the environment. that either we gotta stop that carbon from being released into the environment, or it's going to get worse and worse and worse, and we can have more violent storms like Dorian. We're going to have more floods, like as we see all over the world. Dubai had flood the other day. All over England having flood. Europe having flood. You see what happened in Spain the other day. All those houses were submerged and all those people died. You have floods in South America. You have floods now in some of the American states. So this flood is something new, but it's also something as a result of the amount of heat being trapped on Earth. Because as you know, heat rises and heat turns into rain, and the rain comes back down, and that's what creating a lot of floods, because of the imbalance and the disturbance of all this heat in the environment as a result of carbon traps. And I know we call it scientists, but you read about these things, and I did some research, so I have an idea what's going on, right? And we know that the Bahamas, just in the dailies recently, they said the Bahamas faces greatest sea level rise threat by far. So in recent times, the Bahamas sea level has risen to heights that we're not familiar with. And, excuse me, as a result of that, that is a big threat to our country, because, you know, we're very low-lying. We are so low-lying that we're one of the most low-lyingest countries in the world, definitely in the Caribbean. If you go to the other Caribbean countries, and if you think about the Caribbean, seeing all those islands, you could start with Cuba and go straight round to Hispaniola and Puerto Rico, and go straight round to Montserrat and St. Kitts and Antigua and Barbuda. You get Barbados and St. Vincent and Trinidad. You go and check those countries out. I've been on cruise, plus I've been by air, because I've been in a lot of seminars and whatnot in those places. And just about all of those countries have tall hills and mountains that we could only dream of seeing in our country. And a lot of Bahamians don't believe it when they go down there. They see the small islands, smaller than Nassau, and got a mountain. So they are not as exposed or as threatened as the Bahamas. And we could talk with some of those details. Cayman Islands are very similar to us. But if this thing don't stop very soon, and the sea level continue to rise, flooding would overwhelm our islands. And they talk about some percentages that we could talk about after the break, right? But let me tell you something. This is danger zone. And we, the Bahamas, we should be the leaders in the world when it comes to mitigation of carbon emissions. And they're big words. Okay, when it comes to reducing the amount of carbon we put in there. And you know what? We're doing a lousy job. We're doing a lousy job because instead of moving from fossil fuel to what God bless us with, which is solar energy, we're trying to move from fossil fuel to another form of fossil fuel, which is natural gas. So we will move from diesel and bunker to natural gas, which gives out about 40% of carbon. And those other ones give out 87%, right? So yeah, we're cutting it in half. But we don't need it at all. We should be showing the world that we going solar, where we're not putting any carbon in there. So we need to solarize the entire Bahamas. That will foster rewarding future when we utilize energy for the citizens or the citizenry and for the government. Everybody wins. Should the entire country become solarized, the cost of energy will be reduced exponentially. We can look at paying below half of what we currently pay in for light bill. Below half. Some say like 25%. But I'll just stick to below half. Because we know for a fact, if we solarize this country right now, we'll pay below half every month. Plus, the government of the Bahamas can receive carbon credits from the United Nations. They will receive carbon credits based on the reduction of carbon that we were putting there. So if we're putting no carbon in there no more, and we was putting, say, 200 pounds every week, we could go to the United Nations, because they have a fund there that is 3.7 trillion by now, that they say countries that are mitigating can get carbon credits based on the volume of the mitigation they did. Yes, we're talking about our seagrass meadows, sequestering all this carbon, we should be able to get some. No, but we ain't gonna get nothing for that because we're not mitigating that. That's just a natural thing that's gonna happen now, that's been happening centuries ago, from the world, probably from the Bahamas existed, that was happening. And even when we done put all these measures in place by 2050 to have no carbon emissions nowhere in the world, seagrass meadows could still be taking carbon out there. That ain't gonna never stop. So the United Nations say, we ain't paying you for that, because you ain't controlling that. That's a part of the world that's naturally doing what it does, and it will not stop when we stop emitting carbon. So those people out there telling us, oh, you know, we're supposed to get carbon credit for our seagrass meadows and our mangroves and all this. Nah, that's a bunch of nonsense. Tell them, and I wish one of them call and tell me that ain't a bunch of nonsense. The number is 326-8255. 326-8255. Please call me and tell me that ain't a bunch of nonsense. Excuse me again, because if we don't mitigate, ain't no credit to get. If we don't reduce, ain't no credit to get. So get on our government to cause this country to become solarized. Allow us to tie on to the grid. And we need to do some things. We need to change those transformers so that the transformers would be two-way transformers. It will give us energy when we need it, and it will take energy from us when we put energy into the grid. And that way, everybody wins. Because that will lighten the load that our utility companies, whether it be BPL or Freeport Power, whoever it is, it will lighten the load on how much energy they need to produce to feed us. Because we can help feed them in some cases. And of course, some are saying, solarize our roof and stuff. So we still can be dependent on that. But the cost of energy would be so much less. And they'll make more money because they're using what we give them to sell to them who don't have solar at a much higher price. Than, they can cut what they pay us, but they can increase what they charge them. So they can't lose. That's a win-win for everybody. Then we wouldn't have to buy batteries to store our solar power, so that if we off the grid, we got the batteries. You need the inverter. The inverter is what gonna take it from direct current to alternating current. So take it from your battery in the car is direct current, but when you push in the plug in the house, that's alternating current. That give you 115, 120 volts, and based on what you're consuming in amps determines how much power you're using, right? I'm an electrician, so I can talk this kind of talk, and any other electrician who want to talk about solar, who want to talk but power in general. Oh, we got the phone light up. I guess somebody want to challenge what I said. Let's see what my good friend, I don't know what it is, calling, have to say. Good night, my friend. You are on Maritime Matters. Thank you so much for calling.
Good night, Captain. How are you?
top shape, my friend, and getting better all the time. How are you?
I am doing awesome, my friend, doing awesome. Interesting show, right? But I want to take your topic from a different side. We're talking about all of these innovative ideas, reducing carbon, but have you ever drove down Adelaide Road recently?
And I go there very often because I work out there.
Okay. You notice how they're filling in all of the swamp areas, filling in all of the marshlands. They're destroying the environment itself. Out in the ocean, we're dumping. We're doing everything but protecting the environment. So before we could even talk about all of these innovative ideas about reducing carbon and all of these things, how about we first start protecting the environment? The pine forest in the Bahamas is being cut down daily. It's being burned for coal.
Well, you are absolutely right, caller. And the thing is, we should be focusing on those things as well. But now remember, those things are not causing the sea level to rise. They're not causing the earth to heat up. I'm not saying they're not important, right? But at this point, we need to save ourselves from this global warming. Otherwise, we will be consumed with flooding and we will exist no more.
Well, we already did some damage in that area by cutting down all the hills. The hills absorb a lot of the moisture and the water that came into this island.
Yeah, but what you call hills, see, water can find its level. What you call hills, when you have the ocean rising, right, and water coming in from all of your coastlines, what you might call hills today may be valleys when the water level settle, eh?
I agree, but the little that we do have, we're cutting them down.
Yeah, well, you know, there's a law against that. And when you see things like that going on, unfortunately, our country is full of corruption, right? A lot of people spend money to do things that shouldn't be allowed. And unfortunately, a lot of our government entities take that money and allow these things to be done and turn their head the next way.
Right, because... Well,
right? And they're not putting their foot down on these things.
Right, because I frequent the Western area a lot.
Yes.
And those areas that are now newly gated communities, they had a little rise in the land mass, in the contour of the earth. They cut down those areas, and then they took the fill from those areas, and then they fill in the very areas that captured the same flooding you're talking about, those swamp areas, those marsh areas.
Yeah, they're disturbing nature. You remember those two big hills on East Street that by Independence Drive?
Right, they cut them right to the people.
Yeah, they cut them down to all the way down. One side they even ain't built nothing on it yet. But my thing is, they do these things and then they pass laws, say they wouldn't allow it to go any further, and then we still see it happening, right? So, I mean, that in itself needs to stop. But as far as having an impact to put our country in dire straits, I would, because, you know, all over the world, you need development.
Right, so I'm saying, if we're looking towards going around the world, promoting this green energy, this protecting the environment, and all of these innovative ideas for global warming, we need to start first by policing these small things in our own home, in our own land.
We have measures in place to do that. But what I'm saying to you is, like everything else in this country, people are still violating those measures by way of corruption.
Right, because
I don't know if you or me or anybody else will ever be able to put a bridle on corruption in this country. Yes, we could start by making sure we don't ourselves be corrupt. Right? But as far as the global warming is concerned, where the Bahamas is now faced with being flooded out so readily because the water level is going to rise, and in 50 years, according to this article, we will all be flooded.
Right.
If things don't change. And when they say things don't change, they're talking about the carbon being emitted into the environment that creates a blockage and causes the heat to be trapped on the earth.
Right. You know what happened in Freeport during the last hurricane? Remember all of those canals they cut when the area called over the bridge?
Yeah.
When the water came in, those canals act as outlet and as shafts to bring that water inland.
Well, actually, I don't agree with that. Those canals come in from the north and they go all the way to the south. So if water is coming in and all that water came in from the bank side from the north, remember this hurricane Dorian was stuck right in South Riding Point, and it just swept all of that water from the bank side, from West End, and from that, and they just bring it into Freeport. And if they didn't have that outlet by way of canals and stuff, it would have been trapped in Freeport and gotten even higher.
You think so? So you don't.
I telling you how Freeport lay out. That's exactly what took place.
So all of these canals, we cutting, dredging the seabeds, and all these other things. All of this is a part of what we need to be policing and governing in itself.
Well, digging canals is only bringing your sea level into land, right? But it doesn't change your sea level.
Okay.
Water will always find its level. And I'm not saying digging canal is a good thing or a bad thing, but all I'm saying is that in itself, in this case, when Dorian came, I think if it wasn't for those canals, we would have ended with more flooding in Freeport than we did actually have.
Yeah, because I'm quite familiar with the canal that's at Laifiki, and every so often they have to pump the sand from the mouth of that back onto the beach, because what it does.
Yeah, that's siltation. That's something totally different.
That's right. When the water drains in from the canal, it pulls the sand from the two sides of the canal off the beach. It turns the beaches into rock.
Absolutely.
Your rock. So I'm saying there's a lot of things that we need to police in the country that is causing corrosion itself on our beach line, because once the sand moves off the beach and it's just rock, that sand also acts as a barrier to prevent flooding.
That's right. So we need to police those things, but policing those things ain't gonna bring us as much money as if our light bill cut down by 25%, cut down from to less than half of what it is today, and the country is receiving money for the reduction in carbon emissions. See, they're the things I need to focus on, because we go all win. Plus we helping the earth from this global warming and this heat, and if all countries doing that.
So my point is, how are we going to want to take on these big agendas if we can't even police these small ones?
I don't know if it's a big agenda for our electrical company to provide a pathway for us to feed and take from our grid. I don't think that's a big agenda. They just need to change some transformers and change some meters, and that's it. And we could control that.
So why isn't it not being done if it's
Now you're talking. Why is it not being done? And I could tell you what I think. Well, I wouldn't tell you all of what I think. I'll tell you some of what I think. I think because the government makes so much money off fuel imports, right? They don't want that to stop. That's government revenue that will stop if we import enough fuel no more. Plus you got some special interest groups that provide that fuel, and they don't want that to stop.
So you go right back to lobbying and corruption.
Well, you go right back to, you don't have the political will to make it happen. But if it happens, every citizen will get the benefit. And because right now we all being hurt. And I can say to you, perhaps government have motives to not solarize the Bahamas.
And what is that
but
motive?
We the people need to get, the motive is that they make a lot of money in the treasury from fuel imports.
So at the end of the day, on one side of their mouth they're saying they're concerned about the country being flooded and overrun with this global warming in terms of sea level rising, and then on the other hand they're turning a blind eye because they're making money.
You got it. Why would the government say we're going to make Exuma 80% solarize, but they're in touch in Nassau? Why would they do that? Obviously they could make the whole country 80% solarize, eh?
Yes, definitely.
So why wouldn't you want to touch Nassau, where you have most of your consumption of energy?
Because the large consumption.
Because you could be cutting out all the money you're making off importing fuel.
Correct.
All the tax money the government making.
So it all boils down to we selling ourselves out for money.
Yeah, but we need to do as citizens is we need to take a stand and find out. We want to know exactly what this government intends to do with it. We want to know what the opposition, that's the FNM, the Coalition of Independence, the DNA, whoever's in opposition, what is your intention if you're getting power to deal with this solarizing the Bahamas? See, because ain't nobody saying nothing about it, you know. I only blaming our government, who's in the chair now, The government before them, the government who could be after them, I'm blaming everybody. Let's see what you all got on your agenda for solarizing the country.
Right, because with the change in government in the United States, the agenda and the climate debate is going to change dramatically. So we need to do some things here to help ourselves.
Well, the reason why it could change in the U.S. is obviously because the U.S. is an exporter of fuel. See, we don't export fuel.
And the incoming administration is not going to support a lot of the.
Yeah, because they want to export fuel and they want to use their own fuel and they want. But that is going to be very short-lived. So you got to remember that incoming administration is only there for 4 years. The world is looking at 2030 as a benchmark, and then 2035 as another benchmark. So the world is going to be going with this thing. So the U.S. will be left in a vacuum where the people they exporting fuel to, even they want more fuel because they don't solarize and put their wind farms in place, and they don't even need fossil fuel no more. So who's the U.S. going to sell this fuel to? You see, so we ain't got to worry, but the incoming administration trying to say America could do this and do that and do the next. You know, the world wouldn't even need it no more. So America, they could be stuck in, and mind you, they could use it. But even a lot of Americans will want to win of utilizing electric vehicles, and they already have a lot of solar in places in the U.S. where people are tied in to their electrical system and making money off it in some cases.
Well,
and then they already have plans for wind farms that have been approved for areas like New York, the coal areas of the U.S. So this thing is happening.
Well, for us, I look forward to, for us getting some teeth in our voice, our environmental laws to start to protect the seagrass, the land, the marshlands, and the ecosystem that we do have. And once we can do that, we can breathe clean air. We can use some of the natural resources that we have to get our own solar energy. And until that happens, we basically be going down a spark because we destroying the environment ourselves.
Yeah, but we don't. Let me tell you something.
And we need global warming to assist with that because we're doing it to ourselves.
For the past 3.5 billion years, the Earth was in existence.
Right.
We didn't have to protect our seagrass meadows. They don't need no protection. What kind of protection that need from people ain't gonna about? Now, if global warming moves in and the water temperature gets hot, then those seagrass can actually die. We need to protect them by stopping global warming.
Yeah.
That's why we need to do things to stop the emissions of fossil fuel, stop the use of and we got sun. We even need wind farms. Yeah. We need solar farms. We need to put solar on people's roof and allow them to feed to the grid so that we could just rack this up one time and the government can save money because it's less costly for the citizens. Plus, the government can now get carbon credits. So the couple dollars they're getting, well, not couple dollars, getting big bucks of importing fuel. They can still be getting money by means of mitigating what is going on with carbon as we speak. So, you know, the government can have a win-win. The citizens will definitely have a win-win. The utility company can have a win-win because now me and you got solar on our roof and we helping them by giving them. And when our solar go bad, we could spend to replace that. Everything I spend, everything I maintain that. We could maintain that for them. So everybody wins if we just look at it from a winning perspective.
Well, it's a good show, and I hope they're listening, and I hope something happens in terms of teeth, because you know we talk a lot, but at the end of the day, beyond the talk, we really don't see much action in these areas.
Well, what we need really is the political will, more so than teeth, because the government don't need teeth to cause BPL to solarize.
Right.
All they need is the political will. And we don't know what the opposition is saying about it because they ain't saying nothing. We don't really know what the government is saying except they can solarize Exuma. They ain't saying nothing but solarizing New Providence. So we'll be left in a vacuum and unless we keep the pressure on somehow, and it'll continue to be in a vacuum.
I agree.
Yeah, but thank you so much for your call, man. It's very timely and very informative. So, you just, let's just keep talking about it, and at the end of the day, let's wait and see and hope that things will improve.
Okay, awesome. I'll hang up and continue to listen.
Thank you so much, my friend. Yes, very good friend of mine. He is a very good contributor to the show as well. And ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to Maritime Matters. I am your host, Captain Glenn Bain. My producer for the night is Mr. Kishno Jones, and we are keeping it rolling. We just got through our litany of topics, and we slow down and stop on the grid, the power grid for the country, how it could be a win-win for everybody. We want to talk a little about electric vehicles, although that was mentioned already, because electric vehicles need to charge. And if the energy cost is dropped to under half of what we pay now, it will be that much savings for everybody who have an electric vehicle. Because that's the biggest, the electric vehicle take the most energy out of your home. When you take the amount of energy it takes to charge your car up overnight if you have an electric vehicle, when you add up all your water heater and if you got a pump and what else is plenty covered, your little microwave and washer and dryer, you add all them together and that ain't enough energy in that day as your car took to charge overnight. So we need to bring the cost of the energy down, period, so that even with the electric vehicles, we could be winning big. And we see that electric vehicles are very prominent right now on our streets. You got all kind of different types. I got in the mall the other day and they had 2 electric vehicles on display. One is BYD, what they call Build Your Dreams, coming out of China. And well, the next one was in Tesla, because they're the only 2 I know about. But the other one, I forget what the name. Boy, but they're pretty. And I tell you, electric vehicles in the next couple of years, by 2035, well, after 2035, they can stop making cars with combustible engine. They can stop making parts for your car with engine. Because when you get an electric vehicle, you don't need to service that no more. You don't need no gas. You don't need no oil. All you need to do is plug that in overnight. And if PPL is operating on solar, that ain't even cost you much money. And those things, those batteries are good for 10, 20, even 30 years in some cases, depending on how often you use that car and how, whether you go through a lot. So it could be a different experience. You ain't got to worry about going to no mechanic to deal with no engine. Yes, when it's suspension and this and that, you still got to go to the mechanic to take care of those type of things, CV joints, all the rest of those things. But the engine itself could be replaced with a battery. So you ain't got to worry about none of that. That's where we go in with electric vehicles, and that's why the whole world is moving to electric vehicles. So even if the US don't want to do it, and I know a lot of Americans actually, because Tesla big, one of Trump, incoming President Donald Trump best pals is the big man for Tesla. So it ain't like Teslas can slow down. They probably can speed up. So I don't know where the fossil fuel can be used. It ain't gonna be on cars. So cruise ships. We want to talk a little about cruise ships. They have Greece and Mexico. They're moving forward with taxing, head tax for cruise passengers. Right now they don't have much, but boy, they get big. We'll talk about that after the break. But should we in the Bahamas consider elevating our head tax amount for cruise ship passengers? We get the biggest visiting port in the world outside of them big trading states. Nassau is the biggest. Nassau doing plenty passengers, right? We know that the Bahamas soon we going close to 10 million a year. So should we go up on our head tax while these other people doing it? I will firmly suggest that we do not. We don't need to. I think what we should focus on is creating more cruise ship facilitation ports. Every family island should have a cruise ship port that the government put there. Because these people are desperate for new destinations. And our family islands, like everything else, they being new destinations would be far more tranquil. They would be far more, pristine when it comes to, you go on some of the family islands, you could actually pick your own beach and go there, and that's a virgin beach. And when you leave and the tide rise and water comes, it will be a virgin beach for the next person, eh? That's how good we got it. We got a call on the line. Calling on Maritime Matters. Hello.
Good evening. How are you?
Good evening to you, my friend. I'm in top shape and getting better all the time. How are you?
Excellent. Just wanted to correct a couple of things you said earlier.
Now that's what I'm talking about. Let's go, baby. Let's go.
Let's go. So, as it stands right now at BPL rates, charging an electric vehicle costs you the equivalent of $2 per gallon.
Right.
Right. At current BPL rates. So if they were to bring them down, which we would all love them to do, it would be even less.
Exactly.
I've been driving EVs for 6 years.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. I'm saying that if we can solarize and the rates drop to less than half of what we're paying now, when we charge up our EV, it'll cost us a lot less.
Yes.
That's what I said.
So what they need is microgrids, because the biggest unused space in this island, that's New Providence, for solar is the roof of all the warehouses that we have and other large buildings.
That's right. And the roof of our own house as well.
Yep. I've had solar at my house since 2016.
I can talk to you.
Yeah, man. Look, I've been on this game for quite a while now.
So how do you find it? Is it cheaper with your? Is it cheaper? So obviously you got an off the grid system, eh? You got you got a fully off the grid system with batteries and everything else.
No, I'm grid tied.
So we could get grid tied. Is there? So they have transformers that can actually accept your what you're feeding to the grid.
Yeah. Of course. What you get when you put in, you have to go through the process of, the Ministry of Works
and you
has to approve it, and BPL has to approve it.
Right.
And then you get a two-way meter.
Right.
So,
you need a two-way
right?
meter.
So when you exceed your requirements, the excess goes out into the grid.
And the meter start going backwards.
No, it's a two-way meter.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying it's going backwards. It's spin the opposite way.
No, you don't have that kind of meter.
So what do you mean by two-way meter?
It has one part for electricity going out, and another for the electricity going in. So it's like a dual meter, if you like.
Oh, it's like a twin meter.
Yeah. So what BPL does when they send you the bill, they said you also gave us this much electricity.
So they
get a credit for that, and then you pay the difference. Okay. And some months, when like in February, last February, our bill was a credit.
Yeah, because he was getting heated even in February, eh?
Well, in February you're not using all that AC and stuff, right?
That's right. So you're using less energy, so you get a credit instead of a bill they paying you.
Exactly.
Yeah, and if you put one or two more solar panels and an inverter, you probably would be getting that almost every month.
Well, I could. This was 2016, so I could swap the panels and actually exceed what I need. But then I would put in batteries anyway and just go off grid. Why be tied if you don't need it?
If you can go off, if you can go tied, you wouldn't need batteries.
No. Batteries are an expensive part of a solar system.
And everybody wins. If you could all tie to the grid, most of us wouldn't have to pay for batteries. And really, because when you have all that going on, you find that your current will hardly ever go off if everybody feeding the grid.
Yeah, everybody wins.
Everybody wins.
Yeah.
Now you say you want to correct me on some things. What that is?
Well, on the electricity requirements, in fact, your average EV uses about 3,000 kilowatt hours a year.
Yeah.
So that's 200 and something a month.
Man, I can't do all the maths, man. What you saying? Say that in layman terms for my, so my audience can hear what you. I was told based on my research. My research told me that my EV will pull more energy than what my house uses on a daily basis once I charge my EV overnight. Is that the case?
No, because you're not charging the EV every night.
Why not?
Because you don't need to.
Oh, well, it depends on how much runs you do, eh? You probably, some people just go from home to work and wake home. They stop into the bar, sweetheart, to take this place.
No, but look,
so
okay.
you're doing less runs.
Well, the early EVs that we had was a lease, but that didn't have much range.
Okay. Yeah, they're getting much better now, as you probably know.
Oh yeah, the car I'm driving now has a 340-mile range on a charge.
That's right, and they're even getting better.
I only plug that in about every 10 days.
Yeah, the island only 21 miles long, so I can understand.
Exactly. Yeah. You don't have range anxiety here.
Yeah, but my research came from the U.S. where they got a bunch of highway driving and stuff.
Right. But I can tell you, right? You have an EV.
Mm-hmm.
You will not notice that on your electricity bill.
Wow. Man, I'm glad you go on the show tonight. But
I mean, let me tell you why. Let's take an example, right?
Right.
Let's say you're spending $100 a week on gas.
Yeah.
You'll be paying about $20, $25
on electricity.
On electricity.
And plus, you ain't gotta buy no oil and change oil every now and then and do all
exactly.
This.
Yeah.
Wow. So
you only got to take it in once a year. Yeah. So you don't have to be taking it in every 4 months or whatever it is for these gas cars. I don't know. I haven't had one for so long. I don't remember. Only that I used to hate having to take it in to get serviced all the time.
So what kind of service? What kind of service and they just do when you take it in? I don't know. You have to service EVs.
Well, you got to remember, you still got tires, you still got brakes, you still got shocks.
Yeah, but they
got windshield wipers.
Any bush mechanic could do those kind of things. Eh?
Remember, it's a computer on wheels.
Yeah, but when we carry our car for service, it don't be those kind of things. It's normally the engine they service.
No, they check all that.
No, I'm not talking about the EVs. I'm talking about our
regular
vehicles.
But when you take your car in for service,
let's change the oil and the filters.
No, but they also do all the other things, right? They just don't tell you.
No, they can charge you for that. They can tell you if they're doing it. They don't check unless you ask them, tell them you have a problem.
Well, the service I do, and you take the car in, EV in.
Yeah.
They go through everything, change the wipers, check all the fluids.
What fluids? What fluids EVs have?
The window washer for a start.
Oh, you mean them water things? I don't. Boy, you was a mess.
No,
I can check that myself, man. I need to take that for them to check.
No. EVs are low maintenance.
Yeah, well, almost zero. I mean, they have, like you say, your CV joint boots and things like that every now and then, because they don't go too often, especially the way they make in the cars these days.
Yeah, well, I don't know.
Yeah, well, I do a little mechanic work myself. Although I get a good mechanic, I try to do my work, and when I run into trouble, then I just go to him.
No, but what I'm saying is the manufacturers will usually require your EV get looked at once a year to maintain your warranty.
Yeah, you're right. They won't.
And then the other thing you got to remember too, there may be software updates.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Well, what kind of software? These EVs got something different from regular cars? For software?
Yeah, man, it's a computer on wheels.
Well, it's a battery on wheels. I don't know if it's a computer.
Computer on wheels.
Well, what kind of computer they got that other cars wouldn't have? I mean, all cars have a computer.
Yes, but they have more computers that do more things than what your gas car does.
Yeah, because they'll have little pumps and stuff like that. You're right.
Well, they're much more sophisticated.
You're right. Okay. I'm so happy you called. And see, I don't have no EV and I ain't no solar. So I need people like you to help me out, man.
Yeah, well, you should get an EV.
My next vehicle, I think will be EV. I ain't getting nothing until this one that's ready to go. Well, I might not have the kind of money you have,
Well, no, that's look at it a different way, right?
Yeah.
You say, well, I can't afford the loan payment.
Well, that's true because you saving money when you get the EV. I understand where you're coming from.
Right. If you're not paying for all that maintenance and gas.
So tell me something. We have two companies now providing EVs, and I think one is providing more. We don't call it used no more. We call it what?
Pre-owned.
Pre-owned. Some providing pre-owned and some providing brand new. But pre-owned or obviously brand new will be more sophisticated and the battery will be more advanced and all that. So I guess it depends on what you can afford, eh?
Well, yes and no. Those pre-owned ones, from what I understand, they're Chinese domestic models. They are not manufactured for export, so they're not at the same level as an export car. You know?
You mean the ones they use in China? It cheaper. It ain't as the quality as good as the ones they exporting?
No.
Oh, I thought it was the other way around.
No. Remember, so with vehicles, right, every country has their own standards, regulations.
Yeah, but we ain't got none in the Bahamas.
No, we don't have any.
So we could use, at least China got regulations. So if their car good for Chinese roads, I'm sure we could use them here without having any complaints, since we ain't got none, eh?
It depends on what you're talking about.
Okay.
You know, the strictest market probably is the EU, and then North America.
Okay.
In terms of what their requirements are in terms of safety and all that kind of stuff. But the Chinese domestics, I'm not saying there's anything necessarily wrong with them. I'm just saying they're not made to the same standard. You know, there's an old saying, you get what you pay for.
You get what you pay for. You're right. Absolutely, Paula. I'm with you on that, man. Man, I thank you so much for calling the show and clarifying these things for us, because you know, sometimes you wonder if anybody out there listening, but man, I am so happy that you was able to do some clarifying on this, the EVs first of all, and the solar in particular, because everybody needs to know that if we go solarized for this new providence in this country, everybody's going to win.
Yes, they are.
So
they are.
Thank you so much for.
You know what?
Go ahead.
The country that's going to be underwater in 50 years is us if we don't do something about it.
Yeah. And we need to lead the way as best we could, because it's us to be more impacted than others.
Yep.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right.
All right.
Very good talking to you.
Thank you so much for calling, man, and you take care of yourself, and we'll keep in touch.
Okay. Bye-bye.
That was a wonderful call. And that call came in just before we take our break. Only one break we have tonight, boy, because time rolling, ticking out of the way. You're listening to Maritime Matters, people, and on this show, we talk maritime. We are about to go to our first break, and when we return, we'll dig a little deeper into some details on these same topics.
At Bahamas Maritime Connection Limited, we offer first-class maritime security services throughout the Bahamas and the wider Caribbean. As experts in maritime security, we specialize in production of ISPS assessments and plans, verification audits, certified familiarization training, and port security consultancy, just to name a few. Our services also include provision of a security force to maintain all required ISPS facility security compliance. For all your maritime security needs, visit us today in Nassau at our East Street South location or in Freeport in the Kipling Building. Call us at 392-3515 or follow us on all social media platforms. Bahamas Maritime Connection, your leader in maritime security. Let's help you make the connection. At One-on-One Pharmacy, our friendly staff is ready to serve you. Visit us today for all your prescription and over-the-counter needs at our East Street South or Charles Saunders Highway locations. We're open Monday through Saturday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. and from 9 to 4 on Sundays. In a rush? Send your refill scripts online at oneononepharmacy.com or ask about our convenient pickup service. one-on-one pharmacy, providing personal health care with people at heart.
Sitting in the morning sun, I'll be sitting when the evening comes, watching the ships roll in, then I'll watch them roll away again. Yeah.
And welcome back. You're listening, people, to Maritime Matters. On this show, we talk maritime. I am your host, Captain Glenn Payne, and we are covering a litany of global warming, renewable energy, power grid, all that stuff, and cruise ships tonight. And our producer happened to be my good little brother, Mr. Kishno Jones. He's on the controls, keeping things ticking alive. Number to call if you want it on the show, 326-8255. That's 326-8255. We've had a couple of calls, and I can tell you, those calls were off the chain. And if you were listening, you would know what I'm talking about. So, talking about global warming, we talked about last month, which was November, being the hottest November ever recorded in history of recording temperatures. And we expect that the months to come will have some further hottest months as a result of the carbon being emitted into the atmosphere due to fossil fuel burning. And if we don't do something about it very, very soon, we have to take deliberate action to reach that carbon zero by 2050. The Bahamas, as we know it, we will be a chain of just flooded islands. We talk about how the Bahamas face greatest sea level rise threat thus far. In recent times, our sea level rise was like really, really high. And let me just read from the dailies what they call really, really high. More than half of New Providence and Paradise Island resorts are vulnerable to the weakest storms, with the Bahamas facing by far the greatest global threat from sea level rise. The Bahamas' low-lying nature makes it extremely susceptible to the effects of sea level rise, and the government's written submission to the ICJ, that's the International Court of Justice or whatever, I think that's what it is, and some of the lawyers could call in and help me out on that, argued alarmingly, it is because we had our Attorney General there putting in an argument that our country is going to be overwhelmed if things ain't done. And well, of course, we need to say how we got seabed meadows, taking the carbon out there, but what we need to say more of is what we're going to do as a country to show that we're trying to mitigate. It's estimated that global mean sea level will rise between 0.43 to 0.84 meters by 2100. Now remember this 2024. So 2100, not too far away, but the 21st century starts at 2050. And that's when we need to really say, we ain't putting no more carbon in the air, hopefully before that. But our country, we can do it now. We can solarize now and stop imports of EVs. Stop imports of ICEs, that's internal combustible engines. We could do that now and start ensuring that the Bahamas is not a contributor to the sea level rise. And if it comes to 0.8 meters, this will be a disaster for this country. In comparison to neighboring island nations, the Bahamas confronts by far the greatest proportional threat from sea level rise, given that 32% of our land, 25% of our population, and 13% of our internet infrastructure are less than half a meter above sea level. And what is half a meter? 0.5 meters. Half a meter is 1.5 foot. And when they talk about sea level, they talk about when tide high, the water coming up another 1.5 feet. That will wipe out 32% of our land. And you know, we ain't got much left after that. 32%, and then if it rises any higher, that could be another 40%. So we got to be very, very careful, eh? That will also wipe out 25% of our population. So 1/4 of our population will lose their homes if we rise to 0.5 meters. And you see what they're projecting if we don't stop? 0.84 meters. Almost twice that. So coastal erosion and flooding caused by rising sea levels poses another serious threat. The Bahamas is predicted to suffer the largest loss of shore in the Caribbean region by 2050, estimated at between 55% to 59%. So we lose half of our shoreline, right? It is also estimated that by 2100 there will be a total loss of all sandy beaches in this country. And this ain't Glenn Bean saying this, you know. I'm reading this from the dailies. So our government is aware of this. Our Ministry of Natural Resources and Health and who's dealing with these kind of things, meteorology, all of them know about this. I just reading it from the dailies. So we got to take this thing serious, man, and stop playing, eh, as they say. So that's where we go with our global warming. Renewable energy in the Bahamas. We say we want to solarize the entire Bahamas. We don't just want to put 80% solar in Exuma. We want 80% solar in New Providence as well, in Grand Bahama as well, etc., etc., etc. And we know that if the entire country, and you heard that caller who has solar on his building, that caller who's using EVs to cut down on the cost of living. All of us need to go there. But the government need to make it easy. Now, I don't know how come he was able to get permission to tie into the grid. Maybe the area he live in, they got certain setup where the transformers are two-way transformers, just like the meter is a two-way meter. Because you got to remember now, the transformer, when they get voltage from the high voltage wires, they go to the transformer to step it down for our household use. So that transformer supplies the power to our houses. So we need to, if you get a solar system on your house and you're using more than you need, and you tie it into the grid, it sends power back to the system, which means that transformer got to be able to suck that up. Or before it reaches the transformer, some other household is using it. And maybe that's the situation is now. But if everybody start getting it, they have to have those transformers. And this is what I've been told by the experts who actually supply and install these things. I had a long talk with one of the experts last week, out of the States. Not that we don't have none here, but the one I talked with was out of the States. And he bringing stuff mainly through Canada and all the rest. And we had a good talk. And he told me that part of the problem New Providence would have is they need to change out the transformers so that they could be two-way and they could accept feeding back into the grid, so that when a transformer and give out so much, they can still take back. And obviously, like the caller just said, they have like a twin meter, where one is coming from the transformer to feed his place, and when his place have enough feeding, the energy goes through the other side that feeds the grid. And what my research told me that in the US, what some people have is the type of meter that spins backwards when the solar panels are feeding the grid. And so they use the sum of the backwards and forward to determine what your bill was for that day, eh? Or for that month, or whatever the case may be. Anyway, let's keep going. Renewable energy of the Bahamas is necessary. We talk about the power grid, the electric vehicles. Well, you heard the caller himself saying that is the way to go, because you don't have the cost of electricity to charge that battery, which you only got to charge, like you say, like once every 10 days. It's far cheaper than buying gas. So why wouldn't you want an electric vehicle? You ain't got to pay to get it serviced. Well, You get paid to get a service. But when they service, and they wouldn't have to be changing oil and changing filters and changing this and changing that. All you can do is check everything, and if they need to change something, they'll tell you. And while your car is new, you ain't gonna worry about that for a couple of years, eh? So you ain't gonna spend money to service just for them to check. Anyway, that's how that go. Now, cruise ships. As we near the last 25 minutes, let's talk a little bit about these cruise ships doing around the world, right? There's a Greece and Mexico move forward with cruise passenger taxes. And the cruise ships don't like to pay out the head tax, especially if you increase it, because you're now cutting into their profit. Mind you, they're making a big whole heap of money, but they ain't trying to share it with us countries. So I really, the way I see it, they spending a lot of money to get people on those ships and bring to us. So if you're going to bring me 6, 7, 8 million tourists every year, but I even ain't going to spend money to get them here, I need to find a way to get money out of them outside of what you're doing on your ship. Because when they come ashore, you ain't got more control over how much money they spend. So we, the receiving country, have to find creative ways to get money out of these cruise ship passengers. Got a call on the line? Caller, you're on Maritime Matters. Thank you so much for calling.
Hi, let me say hi to Auntie May, who's sipping her tea at this moment.
That's what I'm talking about. How you doing, honey?
I'm okay, and I know Auntie May is okay. She just had type of weather.
Yeah, she told me to tell you hello, because I like my friend who's be calling and telling me hello, tell her hi for me. And so I got to let you know, Auntie May, say hi. Good night, Auntie May!
Hey, Auntie May is alive for Christmas.
That's what I'm talking about. So thank you so much for calling, honey, and it's so good to hear your voice, and you have yourself a pleasant holidays.
Let me ask you something. We always having power surge. I remember a couple of years ago, I had a power surge with BC, and good thing I was in the room. All I see was the TV explode. So how would that work with power surges?
Well, your power surge will be controlled by something called an inverter. You will have to install an inverter so that when your solar pick up the heat energy from the solar panel, it has to go to the inverter, because the solar panel only can give you direct current, but the inverter converts that to voltage and amps. They can convert that to electrical energy. So that inverter will not be controlled by BPL, so you wouldn't have to worry about surge, dips and things like that once your inverter is installed.
So like their current is 220, ours is 125, like for appliances and whatnot. So how would that affect it? Or all the houses would have to be up to 220?
They're currently up to 220, because your inverter will be set to what you want it. Your inverter will come. You can get a 120 inverter, or you can get a 240 inverter, but the inverters are like little computers now, so they will give you the amount of the 120 or 115 that your house requires.
Oh, okay. All right.
That will be nice and steady. Good night, Annie. I will tell Annie May you say hello. Thank you so much. Okay, we got another call on the line. Oh, something blinking. I know who that is. We can get rid of that. Okay, so we go back to our family islands. Well, not our family islands. We go back to Greece and Mexico, turning up on the amount of money they're going to charge per head for passenger head tax as we know it, right? And the article reads as such. I read some of it, eh? Two of the most popular destinations for cruise ships both moved forward with their proposed tax increase on passengers due to be enforced starting in 2025. Greece's Prime Minister proposed new taxes on cruise passengers, and specifically at Mykonos and Santorini. They are two islands, two of the most popular destinations in the Greek islands. Both destinations complained of being overwhelmed by the number of daily cruise passengers during the peak season. So because they're overcrowding those places, the Greek Prime Minister said, look here, we get up on this air tax, man. During peak season, Greece will charge 20 euros per passenger. And a euro is about $1.10, eh? So let's say $25 per passenger. And I think that's the kind of rate what Bahamas charging now, right? But they was only charging 5 euros at the two most popular islands and 5 euros at the small islands. So the ones who ain't very popular, they just charge 5 euros. They wasn't charging nothing. Remember now, these people wasn't charging nothing. Now what Mexico said they could do. Mexico's Senate moved quickly. The new tax is scheduled to go into effect on January 1st, 2025, with a fee of $42 per passenger. Now look how high they go on. They're trying to double us, eh? I think we between $20 and $25. They go on $42 per passenger on cruises, an additional to an existing $5 tax imposed on some Mexican states. And this US dollars. Critics were quick to say that it would make Mexico one of the most expensive destinations in the Caribbean. I figured that's in the world, but I don't know. President Claudia, whatever her name is, I don't want to cuss, right? Sheinbaum, okay, I could say that, of Mexico, defended the tax, saying it was an increase based on inflation and rising costs. Well, we got inflation and rising costs too. But I still don't think we need to go up. We need more ports for them, eh? The taxes come as many destinations are grappling with the increasing number of cruise passengers and complaints of over-tourism. They complaining that they get too much. I said we need to open some more ports. The cruise industry highlights that it can adjust schedules and stagger the arrival times of ships into ports to help with the demands on port infrastructure. So the cruise ships which industry is saying that we understand you getting flooded with people and some of your infrastructure can't handle all of that. So what we can do is we can adjust our schedule so that you could deal with a more throughput, slow flow situation, you know. And I think most of them end up going up on air tax anyway. Destinations from Maine to Florida and Alaska. So now remember, Maine is the last part in the northeast of the U.S. Florida, and then Alaska is the last one going up in the northwest, eh? But Alaska's that up there by itself. So destinations from Maine to Florida and Alaska have imposed daily limits on the number of arriving passengers or ships and their size. So some ports say, you too big to come here, we don't want you. Some cities, such as Amsterdam and Barcelona, you know, Amsterdam is in Holland, Barcelona is where? Spain, are looking to relocate cruise ships away from the city center, while Venice was forced to move the cruise pairs to a neighboring city as environmentalists and others protest the impact on the historic location. It's all kind of a rigmarole combustion going on in the cruise world. And we right here in the Bahamas, we twiddling our toes with just Nassau. I can't count Freeport because that's the Port Authority. Nassau is the only cruise ship port our government have in place. What about Abaco? And more specifically, Crossing Rocks, Abaco. Where the land almost touched the ocean, eh? You want to put a cruise port there? The government could put a cruise port there. Once they put that there, only Disney goes to that area now because Disney got Castaway Key, which used to be Gorda Key, or still is Gorda Key, I don't know. But Castaway Key, but Disney ain't gonna let no other cruise ship come there. So if we put a jetty coming out into the deep waters, just to that point to the south, round Crossing Rock areas, just to the south of Sandy Point, eh? We will find that thing with Disney, what Carnival is now doing, Celebration Key in Grand Bahama, in Freeport, this one would be very similar to that. But it wouldn't be owned by Carnival. It wouldn't be owned by Disney. It would be owned by the Bahamas government. And we can build structures for people in Abaco to rent out to sell their native food when the tourists come off the ship. And easy to do. So I say, Mr. Government, let's get it cracking. And boy, let me tell you something. You could solarize that whole thing. Because why? Abaco got plenty land where you could put solar farms. Let's go to Andros. What are we going to do with Andros? Andros got Morgan's Bluff there ready and ripe and good to go. Because Morgan's Bluff used to take in those big water barges that used to barge water from Andros to Nassau before we had this consolidated water thing where they converting salt water to fresh water and all that, and they ain't need no water from Andros no more. We don't get water from Andros no more, you know. We got enough water being made from the seawater that we could just chill out and relax and have good water. But Morgan's Bluff is still there. Morgan's Bluff has a dock that can be extended to hold any 2 large cruise ships. They're big enough now to hold any 1 large cruise ship. They could extend it all the way down so that they could take 2 cruise ships any given day inside the harbor. Little bit of dredging, because they run 27, 28 feet deep. You need to take that to 35, 40 feet deep, eh? And then extend that turning basin, because there's a lot of space in there to turn the ship around. And voila! Morgan's Bluff could take 2 cruise ships a day. Now, what impact that will have on North Andros? Because now when the cruise ships come, they only come in for people to stay on the ship. You know, they come ashore. They won't go to Red Base and see how they make the sponges, how they get the sponges. In fact, some of them want to go in the water and get some sponges. They want to go to some of them nice beaches where when they reach, no footprints. Theirs could be the first set of footprints. They want to go crabbing in the night. Once mosquito ain't biting too much, eh? These are things that Andros could offer cruise ship passengers. And the crime rate could be very low. And all the rest of that, because you ain't Nassau no more, eh? You ain't got to worry about going over the hill in Andros. And that whole area will become a commercial area where cruise ship passengers could get food, they could get drinks, they could watch TV, they could hang out. They will just build up that area, because if you get 2 cruise ships, and them cruise ships now carry like 4,000 and 5,000 passengers each on a daily basis, you know how much things could be happening. The jet skis, the this, the that. I mean, that'll be another Nassau Harbor. Well, not quite Nassau Harbor. Nassau Harbor's carrying more ships than that. But the same set of activities will be wanted. So, Mr. Government, Mr. Opposition, what are you all saying? You see, governments are continuous, you know. The administration may change. But we don't know who could be the next administration. So I want to hear from everybody what y'all saying about making Morgan's Bluff a cruise ship port, since it's so close to being a cruise ship port. And we got Drake still further on the list. That you could do some dredging and build a pier on the outside that could take 2 ships. Just like you did. Just like they did. Right? At Perfect Day at Coco Key. Just like they're gonna want to do now at Stirrup Key, Great Stirrup Key. Just like they doing, or they just did, at Lighthouse Point, Eleuthera for Disney. We can have these all over the country that the government put in place. We don't have to be waiting for cruise ships to do their own thing while we twiddle our toes. I mean, we know we slack, right? But man, please. Come on, opposition, what you all saying? Come on, government, what you all saying? When are we going to export in any family island? Low-hanging fruit is Morgan's Bluff. Let's get it on. 326-8255. Anybody from the opposition, please call and tell me, what are your plans to put in place a cruise ship facility in Morgan's Bluff, a cruise ship facility in Crossing Rocks, a cruise ship facility on Stocking Island, Exuma, Rokers Point, so that when the people come in, they can come to Stockton Island, and on the next side, they will have fast ferry boats. All the ferry, the distance is like Nassau Harbor, Nassau to Paradise Island, eh? It ain't far. And the cruise, and then again, nothing pretty like the picturesque Elizabeth Harbor. So they will get that experience on the ferry, whether the weather rough or not. Inside there is be calm. So come on, Mr. Government, come on, Mr. Opposition, let us know. What is your plan for Stockton Island, for bringing cruise ships there so that Exumians, Georgetownians could go back home and have a job, because 2 cruise ships come in every day and they need plenty workers because a lot of tours can be going on. I mean, it's a no-brainer, you know. Y'all see me talking about this all the time. I ain't stop. So we got anybody out there listening from the opposition? Anybody out there listening from the government? Anybody who could say anything about what anybody planning to do? Instead of just sitting on our hands and waiting on the cruise ships to do things? Let's get innovative and do things that they will be inclined to use, and we can send people back to the islands so that Nassau can now no longer be so centralized. The Bahamas can now, people can go back to the islands and get jobs based on these cruise ship visits, so that Nassau will no longer have to be so congested. The family islands will no longer have to be so, I wouldn't say backwards, because they're not backwards, they're tranquil and all the rest of that, but they can have so much development based on these cruise ship visits, with tours, with restaurants, and, well, you know, Exuma got plenty of restaurants already, so that's a big win. But anyway, let's look at the other islands. Cat Island. You can imagine at Hawk's Nest, a pier is put there where cruise ships could come on each side of the pier and tie up their boat, just like they do everywhere else in the world. Eh? You go to Grand Turk. Carnival got this jetty that they put there where 2 Carnival ships could come every day. But they own that facility. The Turks and Caicos government don't even own that. The Turks and Caicos government don't even have any infrastructure in place for cruise ships. We don't need to be like that. We got a whole heap of islands which could hold, the government could put infrastructure for cruise ship, and the people of those islands can go back home and wait. They don't have to come to Nassau where all this turmoil going on, eh? San Salvador, Coburn Town. You ever been to that area in San Salvador? Well, I know much people have been to San Salvador, but I used to go there all the time when I was on the Defense Force, right? And even when I was at the port, I used to go to inspect the boats and things at Club Med. That Columbus Landing, that is such a beautiful place. Beautiful beach, powdery sand. I wouldn't talk about the beach Club Med have. Come on, man. You put a pier right next to Columbus Landing where 2 cruise ships could come and tie up. Do you know the difference that will make as far as improving the economic structure for San Salvador? This is something that will not cost the government no big heap of money. Why haven't we done it as yet? What say you, Mr. Government? What say you, Mr. Opposition? Say something. 326-8255. Give me a call, man. Stop being chicken. Stop being chicken. Why are we not doing this? Rumkey, Port Nelson. You just need to stick a jetty out in the water anywhere in the airport. It don't even have to be in Port Nelson, because once you put that jetty there, with them thousands of people coming off the ship every time, man, you could build restaurants in that area. You could build fish fries in those areas. You could. I mean, you build nice roads where you're taking people on tours. You're taking people out fishing it. But you know how much fish around Rumkey? All these islands. You wouldn't believe it. 4 minutes left. Oh my goodness. Long Island, where we know the big Clarence Town is there. While it may be a little difficult to get a jetty near Clarence Town, because the cruise ship will be a long way to get in there. You can put a jetty on that key on outside, or it don't have to be right in the harbor. You just need to put a jetty where they can go and tie up their ship. There may be days when they can't go because it's too rough, but that may only be like 3 times a year. What about all those other times? Come on, we need something right there for Clarence Town. We don't have to talk about Crooked Island because we know Landrail Point is so deep that your jetty don't even have to go far for them cruise ship to go and tie up. You ain't got to do no dredging. I know because I've been there over and over again, and I can tell you it's very deep water, close to that rock, or that settlement named Landrail Point. And even at Long Key, you can do the same thing. Acklands, look at Selena Point. That ocean side, nice protected, and guess what? 2 cruise ships going there will change the landscape of Acklands. Maguana got Betsy Bay waiting on us. Betsy Bay is on the western side, well protected from the prevailing winds, eh? You put a jetty there that can take 2 cruise ships. You know, the cruise ships that is going from Nassau to the Eastern Caribbean, or from Nassau to Dominican Republic. Do you know that they don't have nowhere to stop when they leave Nassau that the government provides before they get to that next area? You know how happy they would be to be able to stop to Betsy Bay, Maguana, and tie the ship up as a stop where they don't have to have 2 sea days or 3 sea days before they reach their destination. Same thing with Machu Town in Agua. Big Island, you know how much tours they could be doing with those flamingos, tours of Morton Salt, tours of our good looking lighthouse right there, tours of the Morton pumps where people just catch all them barracuda. Yeah, you all don't know. Hey, these people will be freaking out on these things, you know. So all I'm saying, my dear listener, is between our government and our opposition, our government of the day needs to look at our country, and we need, first of all, to solarize it, and second of all, we need to make sure we have cruise ship facilitation in each island. And that will change the financial landscape of this country so severely that all Bahamians will smile again. That's it. Time has run out on us. I thank you so much for listening to our show, Maritime Matters. Again, I'm your host, Captain Glenn Bain. We were produced tonight by my good friend, my little brother, Mr. Kishno Jones. Our sponsors for the night, of course, 101 Pharmacy in Nassau, Island Care Pharmacy in Freeport, and Bahamas Maritime Connection Limited, our ISPS one-stop shop. So ladies and gentlemen, I thank you, my dear listener, for continuing to tune in to Maritime Matters. I know I get the message, I get the memo from many of y'all. I ain't calling, boy, but I used to be listening. Used to be talking some good stuff. Used to be educating the public. Used to be doing this, which I'm happy to do. Right? And I want to say again, good night, Auntie May. My good old auntie up there in Freeport. 91 years and going strong. Heading for 92 real fast. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, as always, I say to you, Maritime Matters out.
Watching the tide roll away, sitting on a darker bay, wasting time. Look like nothing's gonna change. Everything still remains the same. I can't do what 10 people tell me to do, so I guess I'll remain the same. Sitting here resting my bones
off the CD player, through the console, into the transmitter, out of the tower, through your speakers, to your ears. Nothing but hits.
Love 97.